What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. I want to take a look at a colored middleweight champion by the name of Frank Craig, the Harlem Coffee Cooler. He was born April 1st, 1868 in Columbus, Georgia. He died January 1943 in Chelsea, London, England. He stood 5 foot 10 inches and he weighed 153 to 169 pounds. Now, he was managed by Denny Butler. He had total bouts of 139 fights, 74 wins, 47 knockouts, 48 losses, and he was stopped 18 times himself. He would have 13 draws. Now, Mark Twain, a famous writer, wrote a piece in his column about a fight that took place January 4th, 1894. It was between Frank Craig, the Harlem Coffee Cooler, and Joe Ellingworth. And according to Mark Twain, it would be the best fight that he's ever seen. Because Frank Craig, according to Mark Twain, was a very confident, very physically fit, and he was a no-nonsense individual. And he seemed to know exactly what he was doing in that square circle, according to Mark Twain. And within 7 rounds, he would knock down and knock out Joe Ellingworth. Now, what was most amazing to Mark Twain was that Joe Ellingworth would get in a sitting position, and Frank Craig would be right there to greet him. And Frank Craig had a fist balled up in such a way he would be throwing a snowball. And Joe Ellingworth looked at Frank Craig as if to say, "This fight is over. Congratulations." And according to Mark Twain, it would be the most remarkable thing that he's ever seen. He was with his wife, Olivia. You see, the Harlem Coffee Cooler once held the colored middleweight championship belt with a win over champion Joe Butler. Frank Craig fought fighters such as Dan Creedon. Dan Creedon was a well-established fighter, well-established. Now, throughout the course of this video, I'm going to try and show you the opponents, as many of them as I can. And Dan Creedon had a fighting career record of 23-1-7. October 14, 1895. The National Sporting Club was where he would face Frank Craig. He faced him again February 7th, 1894. He had a fighting career record at that time, 13-0-4. February 14th, 1894. At that time, he had a fighting career record of 15-0-8. And he would fight him there at the Miners Bowery Theater in New York. Now, Dan Creedon been in there with a lot of great fighters. He was in there with Joe Walcott, the Barbados Demon. Joe Walcott was the first black welterweight champion of the world. He was in there with young Peter Jackson. Young Peter Jackson was a phenomenal fighter. Outstanding fighter was young Peter Jackson. He was in there with Bob Fitzsimmons. Now, Bob Fitzsimmons was a 3-time champion. He would win a middleweight championship crown from Jack Dempsey Nonpareil. The light heavyweight championship crown from Jack Root. Jack Root would be the first light heavyweight champion in history when he defeated George Gardner. And that would be the first champion, Jack Root. Bob Fitzsimmons would defeat Jack Root, but he would never defend the light heavyweight championship crown. And then he would move up and meet Gentleman Jim Corbett and knock him out with the famous solar plexus punch in Carson City and become the heavyweight champions of the world. Now, Roy Jones, along with James Toney, would also accomplish that feat. But James Toney was rejected because of steroid usage that was found in his urine. So Roy Jones and Bob Fitzsimmons are the only 2 fighters to hold that distinction. Gentleman Jim Corbett would take the title away from John L. Sullivan. John L. Sullivan took the crown away from Jake Kilrain, who fought Jim Smith for that title. Now, the Harlem Coffee Cooler would also face Joe Butler. Joe Butler was named the king of the middleweights. Now, Frank Craig would take the title away from Joe Butler. Butler would eventually get that title back. He was born May 18th, 1866 in Pennsylvania. He stood 6'1.5 inches. He weighed 156 to 175 pounds. Now, he was managed by Tom O'Rourke, a very famous name. He fought fighters such as John Banks, C.A.C. Smith, Jim Daly, Frank Craig, Frank Patty Slavin, Henry Baker, George Crispy, Jack Root, Denver Ed Martin. Quick side note, Denver Ed Martin would be the fighter that Jack Johnson would take the colored heavyweight champion belt away in 1903. He fought Patty Slavin, Dan Creedon, Dick O'Brien, Tommy West, Tommy Ryan, Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, George Gardner. George Gardner would face Jack Root for the light heavyweight championship strap. Sam McVeigh, he would be a colored heavyweight champion. He would lose to Sam McVeigh in 3 rounds. 1907, he would face Sam Langford for 3-round exhibition. Quite a list of names. I'm going to show you some of those opponents. Now, Frank Patty Slavin would be an opponent of Joe Butler. And he would face Bob Fitzsimmons for his heavyweight championship strap. He would come up short, but he would get that challenge with Bob Fitzsimmons. C.A.C. Smith. He was a professor, but he was dominating that division. They called him the Mexican Thunderbolt. Very good fighter was C.A.C. Smith. Now, Joe Butler would also face Jack Root. Jack Root would be the first light heavyweight champion of all times when he would defeat George Gardner. He held that title April 1903 to July 1903. Jack Root, as you can see, was from Australia. I just wanted to show you Jack Root. Now, I just showed you Professor C.A.C. Smith. He was known as the Black Thunderbolt. He was born May 3rd, 1860 in Makins, Georgia. He died October 1924. He stood 5'11", weighed 168 to 230 pounds. Amazing. He was managed by Bill Mondul. He moved north with his mother at the age of 19 in 1865. And he fought an estimated 225 bouts. He defeated men such as Frank Craig, Harlem Coffee Cooler, Mervyn Thompson, Thomas Scoop Alpine, Black Diamond, Harry Woodson, Charles Hadley, Mike Bergen, Steve Taylor, George Godfrey, Joe Jorinsky. Lost him in 4 rounds. Philadelphia, November 21st. Peter Mayha, Buffalo, New York, lost to him in 6 rounds. February 15th, 1897. Then he fought him again, February 15th, 1898. He fought Bob Armstrong, 1893 to 1895. He lost to him both times. He was knocked out. He actually knocked out in the first round Jim Smith. Now, Jim Smith was the fighter who fought Jake Kilrain for the first heavyweight championship belt, which is the Police Gazette. Fought him in 1887. Fought him in England, 1906. He would face Jack Johnson in Memphis. And in 1909, he would lose to Mike Donovan. Mike Donovan was a middleweight champion. Jack Johnson would be the colored heavyweight champion in 1903 when he defeated Denver Ed Martin. And a world heavyweight champion in 1908 when he knocked out Tommy Burns in Sydney, Australia. Let me show you a few opponents of Professor C.A.C. Smith. Now, Professor C.A.C. Smith would face Joe Jorinsky. Joe Jorinsky would be a neighbor and have some very good fights was Jim Corbett, heavyweight champion of the world. But he would take to school Jack Johnson when they were both incarcerated. And he would show him the tricks of the trade. He was a very good boxer. He was actually a better boxer than gentleman Jim Corbett. And Peter Jackson was a better boxer than both of them. But here you have Joe Chowensky. C.A.C. Smith would face the old chocolate. George Godfrey. Very good bare knuckle fighter. Was the original George Godfrey. C.A.C. Woodson would also face Harry Woodson, the Black Diamond. Now the Black Diamond, along with Old Chocolate, would also be colored heavyweight champions. Now the first to hold the colored championship belt, in this case in the heavyweights, would be Sailor Man Tom Sharkey. He would be the very first man to hold the colored championship belt. Just wanted to show you John L. Sullivan, heavyweight champion of the world. So Frank Craig, the Harlem Coffee Cooler, phenomenal fighter. And I just wanted to show you an old school bare knuckle fighter. Did very well for himself. His name was Frank Craig, the Harlem Coffee Cooler. Thanks for hanging in there with me. This is Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series, stating all great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. Salute to these old bare knuckle fighters. Salute to Frank Craig, the Harlem Coffee Cooler. Thanks for your time. Salute.